The night I got played in front of 20,000 people, I learned two things at the same time. Love can make you stupid, and public embarrassment can wake you all the way up. I was standing in my apartment in Houston, holding a plastic fork over a microwave plate of jambalaya, when my phone started buzzing like it had bad news in it. My girl, Ayana, had told me she was spending the weekend at a silent retreat outside Austin, detoxing from noise. 10 seconds later, I was staring at the stadium screen on my friend's video, watching her laugh, lean in, and kiss my best friend, Deshawn. Before I tell you how I turned that moment into the coldest comeback of my life, hit like and subscribe if you love wild real-life betrayal stories, because this one had my whole neighborhood calling me, laughing, cussing, and taking my side all at once. Seriously, drop a comment before the end and tell me what you would have done, because when I say I went from heartbroken to dangerous in one weekend, I mean emotionally dangerous, not stupid. No crashing out, no yelling in parking lots, no begging. Just patience, receipts, timing, and one move so clean it had people in my comments calling me a legend. Let's get into it. My name is Trayvon Bellamy, and at the time this all happened, I was 28, working as a project coordinator for a commercial roofing company on the west side of Houston. My life was simple in the best way. I had a decent apartment in Midtown, a silver Charger I kept too clean, church on some Sundays, dominoes with my cousins on others, and a girl who knew how to make a room feel warm just by stepping into it. Ayana Price was 26, a freelance brand photographer with that effortless kind of pretty that made strangers stare and me act calmer than I actually felt. I thought I had it made. Ayana and I had been together for almost 3 years, and until that weekend, I would have argued with anybody that she was the one. We had routines that felt married, even without the paperwork. Friday meant fish tacos at that black-owned spot near 3rd Ward. Sunday mornings meant her teasing me for singing old-school R&B too loud while I cleaned up. She'd call me Mr. Bellamy when she wanted something, and I'd call her Miss Price when she walked in wearing that vanilla perfume and pretending she didn't know exactly what it did to me. We had inside jokes, grocery store dances, little forehead kisses, and plans bigger than our current rent. Deshawn Ricks had been my brother in everything except blood since 10th grade. We played ball together, bombed a chemistry final together, and got into enough dumb teenage situations to build a whole friendship out of surviving embarrassment. He was the kind of dude who could charm your auntie, your boss, and a complete stranger in the same afternoon. Loud laugh, fresh cuts every Friday, sneakers brighter than common sense. He worked in sports marketing and always had tickets to something. If I was hosting, he was bringing wings. If I was down, he was outside. That was my guy. Or at least, that's what I thought. Looking back, the warning signs were there, but betrayal is slick because it wears the same face as comfort. Ayana had started guarding her phone in that casual way people think isn't obvious. Deshawn had been showing up extra smooth around her, complimenting little things too often, like her nails, her earrings, the shape of her glasses. Once at brunch, he said, "Trey, you better wife her before somebody smart does." And everybody laughed, including me, because jokes always sound harmless when you still believe the room is safe. Even then, something in my chest tightened, but I shoved it aside. Love has a way of editing the footage before your brain can review it. The silent retreat excuse came after a week of Ayana acting tired, distant, and overstimulated, which was her new favorite word. She said she needed 48 hours with no phone calls, no social media, no city noise, no talking unless necessary. She even joked that being away from me would be the hardest part, then kissed my cheek and smiled like innocence had a face. I offered to drive her halfway, and she laughed it off, saying the organizers had arranged transportation from a wellness studio downtown. She packed leggings, a hoodie, a big water bottle, and left Friday afternoon looking peaceful. I stood there waving like a fool in house slides. Friday night felt quiet without her, but not suspicious enough to ruin my mood. I picked up wings, watched the Rockets, and half listened to my cousin Jabari clown me for missing date night. Around 10, I sent Ayana one text. "Hope you're finding inner peace, baby," knowing she probably wouldn't answer. She didn't, and that matched the story, so I let it ride. Saturday morning, I cleaned the apartment, folded laundry, and imagined surprising her Sunday with flowers and breakfast. That's how deep trust had me. I was planning romance, while two people close to me were apparently rehearsing humiliation. Nobody warns you that betrayal moves best while you're being sweet. Saturday evening, I was at home in basketball shorts, eating that sad microwave plate, when my homeboy Lennox called me 3 times back-to-back. Lennox never panicked unless somebody got arrested or the Cowboys did something stupid, so I answered fast. He didn't even say hello. He said, "Trey, don't crash out. I'm finna send you something." My stomach dropped before the video even came through. It was shot shaky from somebody's phone at a baseball game. Crowd loud, lights bright, kiss cam bouncing from couple to couple. Then the screen landed on a woman in a cream jacket and gold hoops. Ayanna. Right beside her, grinning like Satan in fresh cologne, was Deshawn. At first my brain tried to save me. It told me maybe it looked like them. Maybe Houston was full of doppelgangers. Maybe I was tired. Then Ayanna tilted her head in that exact way she always did when she was about to laugh hard, covered her mouth, and leaned into him. Deshawn wrapped an arm around her shoulders like he'd been doing it for months. The crowd started chanting, and then they kissed. Not a confused little peck. Not an awkward joke. It was familiar. Comfortable. Stadium screen, comfortable. I paused the video, zoomed in, and saw the chain I bought her for our 2nd anniversary, resting right against her collarbone. That nearly broke me. I won't lie to y'all. For a hot minute, I saw red. My ears got hot. My chest tightened, and every bad idea tried to introduce itself at once. I wanted to call. I wanted to pull up. I wanted to send the clip to everybody and set the city on fire with one caption. But then something my late grandfather used to say came back to me. Never let the person who embarrassed you also control your reaction. So I sat down. I watched the video 5 more times. I saved it. Then I called Lennox and asked the only smart question available. Where was that game? And who else knows already? Lennox told me it was at Minute Maid Park and that the clip had started floating through group chats because a woman 2 rows behind them posted it saying, "These two are too cute." Cute. That word almost made me laugh from how evil it sounded in context. By then, a few people from our circle had recognized Deshawn's jacket and Ayanna's face. Nobody had sent it to me yet, because real friends know timing matters when your heart's about to get body slammed. I thanked Lennox, hung up, and sat in silence long enough for the shock to cool into something sharper. Pain can make you reckless, but humiliation can make you strategic. I did not call Ayanna that night. I did not text Deshawn either. Instead, I opened Instagram, Facebook, Cash App memories, old photo folders, and my notes app like a detective with rent due. I searched dates, timelines, captions, locations. That's when the whole ugly mural started coming together. A brunch, she said, was with her cousins lined up with a game Deshawn had posted from the same district. A client meeting overlapped with a selfie he uploaded from a rooftop bar I'd never been invited to. Little clues. Tiny lies. Enough to show me this wasn't a random mistake. This had rhythm, repetition, history. They didn't just betray me. They practiced it. Somewhere around midnight, Ayanna finally texted me. "Just checking in before phone-free hours tomorrow. Miss you already." I stared at that message, so long my phone dimmed. That level of lying deserved a trophy. Not because it's clever, but because of the nerve. I almost replied with the clip right then, but I stopped myself. She thought she still had the stage. She thought she was controlling the story. Nah, that was over. I sent back one line. "Proud of you for taking time to reset." Then I put my phone face down and laughed the coldest laugh I've ever laughed in my apartment. From that moment on, I was no longer the victim. I was planning. Sunday morning, I called my older cousin Rochelle, because every man needs one smart woman in the family who can read foolishness like subtitles. Rochelle ran an event planning business, wore bright lipstick like armor, and believed revenge should always be legal, stylish, and unforgettable. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, then said, "So let me guess. You want to scream?" I said no. She got quiet, then said, "Good. Screaming helps them. Exposure helps you." We spent the next hour building a response so tasteful and brutal that when I think about it now, I still have to admire the craftsmanship. Not one threat, not one broken window, just devastating truth with presentation. The key to a brutal comeback is understanding your audience. Ayanna cared about image. She lived through curated captions, soft launch photos, and comment from strangers saying goals. Deshaun cared about being liked. He wanted rooms to tilt toward him. He wanted laughter, attention, invitations, and female approval in equal measure. So if I wanted to hit both of them where it hurt, I couldn't act like a wild ex. I had to become a calm narrator with receipts. Rochelle suggested I host the housewarming game night I'd already been planning for the next weekend and leave the invitations exactly as they were. Ayanna and Deshaun were both already on the list. Perfect. The week leading up to that game night was one long acting class, and I deserve an award for my performance. Ayanna came back Sunday evening carrying crystals, herbal tea, and a lie so polished it could have reflected sunlight. She hugged me from behind while I stood at the stove and said, "Baby, I feel so centered." I almost dropped the pan laughing. Instead, I kissed her hand and said, "I can tell." She started telling me fake stories about journaling by a lake, breathing through silence, and meeting a woman from Denver who changed her perspective. Meanwhile, I'm standing there seasoning salmon, nodding like she isn't auditioning for Worst Human of the Year. That week also had some truly absurd moments that would have been hilarious if my life wasn't in them. Tuesday night, Ayanna asked me to help zip a dress for a networking dinner, and while I fixed it, she smiled in the mirror and said, "I'm lucky to have such a trustworthy man." Trustworthy. Lord. Wednesday, Deshaun called me to ask if I still wanted to split costs for a fantasy football draft party the following month. This snake was discussing budgets with me like he hadn't just been tongue-deep in my relationship on a giant stadium screen. I told him absolutely. Same cheerful voice. Same brother tone. Betrayers really do mistake composure for cluelessness. To keep my head straight, I stayed close to people who loved me for real. My little sister Monty came by with peach cobbler and sat cross-legged on my couch, roasting both of them so hard I nearly healed on the spot. "A silent retreat," she said. That girl wasn't seeking peace. She was seeking premium seating. Even I had to laugh. Lennox said Deshaun looked like he kissed in full confidence, which somehow made it funnier and sadder at the same time. Rochelle kept reminding me, "Don't waste your best move early." Their support mattered, because betrayal can make you question your value if you sit with it alone too long. I refused to rot privately. Game night came the following Saturday, and Rochelle transformed my apartment into a warm, lively trap dressed like hospitality. String lights on the balcony, wings and sliders lined up in trays, card tables ready, an R&B playlist low enough for conversation, and enough people there to make leaving early look suspicious. I invited cousins, co-workers, neighbors, and a few mutual friends who all knew how to act normal under pressure. My barber came through. My old college friend Zaria came too, looking incredible in a green knit dress and a smile that could make a bad week sit down somewhere. She hugged me long, smelled expensive, and whispered, "I heard enough. I'm here." Ayanna showed up first, wearing a fitted brown set and confidence she had not earned. She walked in carrying banana pudding like sin with whipped cream on top, kissed me on the cheek, and immediately started socializing. 15 minutes later, Deshaun arrived loud as ever, dapping everybody up, telling jokes, acting like loyalty had never once had his phone number. When he reached me, he said, "Bro, this set up clean." I told him, "Appreciate you, man. Tonight's gonna be unforgettable." He laughed right in my face, not knowing that for once, he and I were in complete agreement. Watching both of them relax in that room almost made the finale sweeter. I let the night breathe. That's important. You don't rush a well-plated meal, and you don't rush public accountability. People played spades, argued over music, flirted in the kitchen, and took pictures on my balcony. Zaria had everybody entertained with stories about a disastrous date with a man who wore ankle weights to brunch for discipline, which had the whole room crying laughing. Even Ayanna laughed so hard she bent over holding the counter. The irony nearly took me out. At one point, Deshaun saw Zaria sitting next to me and made a little joke about me moving quick. I smiled and said, "Brother, timing is everything." He still didn't catch it. About 2 hours in, Rochelle clinked her glass and announced it was time for a gratitude toast because she loved drama as long as it wore decent shoes. Everybody gathered in the living room with cups raised. I thank people for showing up, for community, for loyalty, for how life reveals who's really for you when you least expect it. The room got softer, attentive. Ayana smiled at me like she thought a proposal might be hiding in the speech. That part still cracks me up. Then I said, actually, before we toast, I want to share one short video about truth coming to light. Lennox dimmed the lights. My TV was already connected. The video started playing on the big screen with full volume. Crowd noise, kiss cam music, stadium lights. In 3 seconds, Ayana's smile evaporated. In 5, Deshawn stopped breathing easy. In 7, the whole room understood exactly what they were looking at. Nobody said a word at first. They just watched those two traitors appear on my television in cinematic betrayal, smiling, cuddling, and kissing under 20,000 people worth of encouragement. When the clip ended, my apartment went so quiet you could hear ice shifting in cups. Then somebody in the back whispered, "Oh nah." That broke the tension just enough for shock to spread like heat through the room. Ayana turned toward me with this broken expression, half panic, half calculation. "Trayvon, I can't explain," she said, which is the anthem of people with no explanation worth hearing. Deshawn tried a different route. He stepped forward with his palms out and said, "Bro, it's not what it looked like." That sentence got 3 different laughs from 3 different corners of the room, because what else could a stadium kiss cam possibly look like? I stayed calm enough to scare them. I said, "Take your time. The floor is yours. Please explain the silent retreat, the baseball game, and how my best friend ended up meditating with his tongue." Rochelle nearly choked laughing. Ayana started crying, the clean kind first, then the ugly kind when she realized tears weren't moving me. She said she'd been confused, that things just happened, that she and Deshawn had developed feelings slowly, that they didn't mean to hurt me. Deshawn tried to blame chemistry and timing, like betrayal was a weather pattern nobody could prepare for. I let them talk themselves into deeper embarrassment. Then I pulled out printed screenshots. Yes, printed, because Rochelle believes paper gives lies the respect they deserve before burial. I laid them on a coffee table. Matching dates, overlapping locations, messages forwarded anonymously. The room leaned in. Their little secret crumbled in high definition. My comeback wasn't loud. It was lethal because it was controlled. I told Ayana she had 30 minutes to remove every item of hers from my apartment tonight, and whatever didn't leave would be donated Monday morning. I told Deshawn that after tonight, my number, my home, my events, and my name were permanently unavailable to him. Then I looked around the room and said, to anybody wondering, no, I'm not fighting. I don't wrestle with disloyal people. I just remove access. That line hit so hard my barber slapped the wall. Zaria leaned back, smiling like she'd just watched somebody sink a game winner from half court. The funniest part, and yes, there was a funniest part, came when Ayana tried to save face by grabbing the banana pudding she brought, like dignity could be packed up with dessert. My sister Monty stopped her at the door and said, "Oh no, you can leave the pudding. Betrayal don't pair well with leftovers." Even Ayana's cousin, who had come with her and clearly had no clue what was happening, burst out laughing before covering her mouth. Meanwhile, Deshawn kept trying to say we should talk privately as men, and Lennox answered from the couch, "Men don't do kiss cam auditions with their brother's girl." The room exploded. He had no reply. After they left, the energy in the apartment shifted from shock to celebration, so naturally it almost felt spiritual. Music came back on. Somebody refreshed drinks. People gathered around me, not with pity, but with pride. That mattered more than I can explain. Zaria handed me a fresh cup and said, "You handled that like a grown man with receipts and range." We ended up talking on the balcony for almost an hour, laughing about everything from bad dating apps to how Houston humidity can ruin confidence and curls in the same afternoon. She was smart, funny, warm, and not once did she perform sympathy. She just treated me like a man whose value had never changed. In the months after that night, Ayana tried reaching out more times than I can count. Long texts, apologies, closure requests, late-night calls from blocked numbers. Deshawn sent one final message saying he missed the brotherhood. I deleted both and kept moving. Zaria and I started slow, Then real, the kind of real that doesn't need a stadium to prove itself. So yeah, getting exposed through a viral kiss cam with my best friend hurt like hell, but it also cleared the room. Sometimes public humiliation is just private deliverance with an audience. Tell me in the comments, was my comeback cold enough, or would you have gone even harder? And don't forget to subscribe.